All right, so we're good to go. All right,
Yes, sir.
so here we are, the Aging Arborist podcast. I'm here with my partner, Brick. This is episode 8. We actually had to count through in our minds to kind of figure out where we were.
Yeah.
Interesting thing, I remember when we started, we talked about, like, let's get 10 episodes in. It's actually hard to believe that, because even my wife this morning said, I can't believe you've done 8 episodes already.
Yeah.
So we're sitting down today with Ray Eager, the owner, operator of Gap Arbor Supply in Narvon? Is that what this? Narvon, PA. Is this Lancaster County?
It is.
Okay, so we're in Lancaster County, which is where, and Derek was on the last episode, and he was like, I'm from Lancaster County. So we are in his home turf, and you live pretty close, right?
Yeah, I'm half a mile from here.
All right,
Yes.
awesome. So, yeah, we're
And
just,
and just, I guess, for listeners and people watching,
Yeah.
we are in the Arbor Supply
Yes.
place.
correct.
So if there is any sort of commotion going on, people coming in and out, this is what Ray does. Like, we're in Ray's place to have this experience, but more importantly, let him keep doing what he's doing while we have the experience. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
For sure.
no doubt. It's the entry doors are literally right behind me. So if someone comes in, we're gonna just roll with it because Ray during business hours was kind enough to allow us to come in, sit down, have a conversation. So Ray is a father, husband, business owner, right? What am I missing? What other things you want folks to know?
Eccentric.
Okay. All right. You fit into
That's
this
all
arborist community pretty well, right? In typical fashion, we've been here for
I know, right?
at least an hour, and we always start these conversations kind of beforehand, but I think it's a good thing because it kind of almost acts as a primer. So just quickly, how long have you been owning Gap, and like kind of like what was the genesis of it? Just walk me through the story of like, hey, I was doing this and then I decided I was going to do this. Like, how did that transpire?
Yeah. So I was in the field, and by the time I was 35, I had Lymes 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So fun stuff. If you haven't had Lymes, you should not try it.
Okay.
And it was, you know what Lymes does.
Well, we
and
need to put a pin in that, and we're going to revisit that. This may be an episode where because not to interrupt, and I'm sorry to do that,
you're good.
but I'm in the journey right now. Brick has gone through it, and so continue,
Yeah.
but it
So
might be good to go back.
I had Lymes 3 times, and my body was starting to break down. Like, things were hurting that didn't hurt before. And at 35, I was like, I've got 10, 15 years max. I need to get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know,
real quick, did you know you had Lyme, or was just your body broke down first and then you found out later?
good question.
Okay, yeah.
Both.
Oh, okay.
So my body was breaking down. I didn't know I had Lymes, but I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then I knew I had Lymes, and I knew I contracted it multiple times after the first time I had it. And so I was looking for an out, and I knew that I couldn't continue in the field forever. I loved the work, love working with my hands, but my body, I figured 50 was, it's a young man's game. At 50, your knees are out, your back is out, your shoulders are out. So I figured I was either going to roll into a sales job or start my own thing. But I grew up, my dad had his own business.
Oh, cool. What did your dad do?
There we go. I love when it starts with a laughter first. That's great.
My dad washed agricultural buildings.
Wow.
So like
Yeah.
barns, chicken houses. So like when they roll over the flock, you have to go in and clean it out.
Okay.
So he would go in and wash all the manure.
And that was around here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, you may be listening like halfway across the world or whatever. We're in a highly agricultural, rural area. Is that a fair way to put it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And he worked all the time.
Yep.
And I did not want to have my own business. That was out. So I figured I was going to get a job doing sales or something like that. And so in 2013, a job rolled up for sales at an equipment yard. And I jumped into it. And
what type of, was it this type of equipment or?
No, it was actually, construction equipment.
Yep.
Cement mixers, plate tampers, things like that. But they hired me because of my background, because, you know, I had a horticultural background. Yep. I knew plants. I knew the industry,
cool.
Used equipment. And about a year in, guys, more and more arborists started coming in looking for gear. And I was like, hey, we should start selling tree gear. And they didn't rein me in, and they didn't give me a free rein to do it either.
Right.
So I just started buying stuff in and trying to sell it. That was in 2014. Within 2 years, they were like, this is too big. You need your own store.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wait. So they told you that this is too big? Like what you created within was too big that you need to...
Yes. You need your own store. So he had another building.
Okay.
They set it up in 2017. We started selling gear in our own spot. And the intent always was for me to take it over.
Oh, that's cool.
2020, I bought it out.
Nice. Good for you.
Now, was that the original, like, was that where I first met you down at the other spot, or was that?
So were you in the first store that was really small, like 1,500 square feet?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think of where I was. Probably not. What years, like, do you remember what years that was?
So that would have been like 2017 to 20. We moved out of that store in like July of 2020.
So has there been 3 locations?
This is the third.
Okay, so I've only been in 2.
Okay. So the first building was about
you said
half of the size of this building. The whole building was half the size of this building.
Okay.
So we just outgrew it very quickly. So
you got the 2020 new place, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think you said that's when you bought them out, essentially.
That's right.
Now you're in this new place as an Arbor Supply dealer. Is that how it works, or are you still doing contract equipment? Or
no,
entirely just tree.
Entirely arborist, tree only.
I got you. Okay.
So,
nice. So it's so you're saying you were in the tree industry.
That's right.
Lyme issues.
Yes.
Go to contractor equipment supply sales.
That's right.
Have an idea, the tree equipment, and then happen to create an Arbor Supply company.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's
so.
Cool.
So just for timeline's sake, so I'm clear, and maybe the people listening can be clear. So you were in this place. How long were you there? And you said arborists started coming in.
Yeah,
for certain things to rent things, and you thought, hey, we should sell some things to them.
So we sold mats already, and we sold, steel chainsaws and bars and chains and things.
Yep.
And they had like roofing supplies,
right?
So like the ropes and stuff like that. And guys would come in and be like, "Oh, I need this rope. I'm going to climb a tree with it."
Okay.
Well, you're not going to climb a tree with that rope,
right?
But So I said, let's try selling some rope and see what happens. And
so I guess my question is, from the time you sort of kicked that off to where they told you we got to get you out, how long of a period was that? Was it a couple of years or 2.5 years? Okay,
it was very quick.
Yeah, so that's not really that long.
No, and the issue, the thing is, the arborist stuff is so specific, and it, how guys are about their gear, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
No, please do tell.
Yeah.
They want to talk about their gear. They want to look at it. Like, when you buy gear, it's a conversation. It's not just buying gear, and that's how it was there.
That's
so now
awesome.
you've got a guy that's trying to sell a cement mixer, and somebody wants to talk about rope, and he's like, I don't know about rope. I don't care about rope.
Here's what we have.
Exactly. Look, there's a rope. Go pick one up.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
That's cool.
So were you surprised? So I guess let me back up. So the arborist community started showing up.
Oh yeah.
And pretty quickly.
Guys were driving 4 or 5 hours to come.
I was going to ask you, did it surprise you?
Shocked me.
And so you were like, did that kind of turn the light on? You were like, well, I might have something here.
No. Yeah, are you kidding me? I'm dead.
Okay.
I had no clue. I never thought it would take off like that. And even if it did, my intent was never to take it like that. It was, this is going to work well for his business. I liked working here.
Sure.
Great guy to work for. I never intended to
work without
grow something that, no. Yeah. I figured, hey, you've got these guys coming in, they're buying mats. Steel sells a hard hat with their name on it. So does Husqvarna. You might as well grab a pencil and throw it up here too. Give them 3 options.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But
I was gonna say, I love that because you had an idea, but you weren't selfish about it. You had an idea of like creating something within that you were a part of.
Yeah.
And it turned into something where they told you, it sounds like they told you, listen, you need to go over here with this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's out of our control at this point, which I love it. It's just, I think that's a testament. I just met you. For the people listening, I met you briefly at the expo, the last expo. This is our second time.
Yeah.
So to hear the story, that there's root in that of the energy and character that you have, because you just said, I just thought it was a good idea to add to the company I work for.
Yeah.
To the point where the company turns around, I was like, you did a great job, but you need to go over here and do your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like, it's really cool.
I absolutely love that too. And as a business owner, and I'll just tell, I love these little asides, excuse me, where you can say to someone who's working in a company. So if you're listening now, and which we're grateful for, a takeaway for you is if you're an employee and you're working for a company, and Ray, you can attest to this too, now that you own the place, right? The idea of having someone come into your employment and have that creative energy and want to expand a role and take initiative, and there's no school for that.
No, but even aside from that, just make where you are better. Like, you don't have to come up with some great idea. Just, do your best job raking. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, just make where you are better. 100%. Leave it better than when you came in. There's a place for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's just.
No doubt. And it's, to me, I think of it as like the ultimate job security. You have someone come in, it's like, and we talk about this too, because, and Brick and I've had this conversation where someone will come in and they're lit up about the thing they see being done, and they want to take on major responsibility. So like in our industry, it's everyone's enamored with the climbing.
Yes.
They're the high wire act. This is what I want to do. And it's like, okay, that's a very, that is a position that requires an inordinate amount of trust and focus. So I'm not going to take you from not knowing you and put you and ask that of you.
Yeah.
I want you to learn how to take on a small task. And this isn't Gen X stuff. This isn't boomer stuff. To me, this is logic and reason. If you're going to ask me to allow you to do something so big, vast, and has a lot of risk involved, I need to know you can handle a small thing. When you own it and display it, I'm going to give you more and more and more. And you're going to work your way up to that responsibility.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, if you have a guy that's proving that he doesn't have it, he's got the bad attitude, he's got the poor work ethic, it's all about him. What's he going to do when he's up there?
Correct.
Correct.
Probably create situations that we don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Or he just doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care about the other guys on the crew. He doesn't care about the way he leaves the property.
Yeah.
You don't want that guy around.
No. And to loop it, you weren't that guy.
No.
You, like you said, you went in to make the place better, and then you ended up with an Arbor Supply place. I think, that's like the American story, right?
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna go work my butt off just to build, myself, my, work ethic, my character, all that, just to work my butt off. Where I am, I'm going to give him the best version of myself. Mm-hmm. And then out of that, that's what we talk about, the fruit of what you did is where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
And, I can't say it enough. I love it because it's just, the buddy I hang out with at work all the time is always, it's the idea of the romantic. Everybody wants the romantic, which is the part about, like, I want to be the tree climber.
Yes.
Like, that's what I want because it's romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Not having any idea what's really involved in the process, right? And for you didn't have the romantic. You were like, I want to build who I am and make the company benefit from that.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this. But romantically, everybody wants an Arbor Supply store with tree gear that we can hang out, talk about tree stuff all day. But there's a computer, there's orders, there's monthly bills, there's employees. There's all this other stuff that comes with it.
Very unromantic.
Exactly. The day-to-day, the day-to-day stuff. Well, it's like dealing with, you're a vendor for multiple companies, and I'm sure there's challenges with certain manufacturers of their things that you carry, right? It's not all peaches
time.
and cream. Like, the question for you though, my relationship with Ray is relatively new as well. I met you in your second location, just came in. And by the way, this store is about anywhere from an hour and 8 on a slow Saturday morning traffic to, it took me about an hour and 20 this morning coming up the Blue Route through rush hour traffic. And it's just been conversation here and there. But there's this like-minded soul level connection, I feel like, in our sort of lifestyles in terms of like our faith and things like that. There's a connection there, which I think is big. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the relationship. And it's part of the reason I wanted to sit down too, because every time we sit down to have a conversation with somebody, and this is pretty thematic with this program, is that we're finding people of like-mindedness, and we're constantly having these conversations that deepen relationships, which is what is unique about this community. But I had a question for you, and it's kind of like this, because I remember when I was a foreman for a company, and I did that for a while, and I decided to sort of make that jump to own my own business. Now, my old boss was a really gifted tree guy, climber, imaginative, etc. So I always had him to kind of, like, I was doing my own thing, but I always had that safety net. I was able to fall back and be like, hey, his name was Stan. Hey, Stan, this tree, little tricky, I'm kind of thinking, and we would talk through it together, and then I would execute sort of a plan.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one job I was on. It was an elm tree. It was behind a garage. It had some dead, and there was like no center tie-in. It was just a very odd, and I would have done this for him any day of the week, but I had no safety net. There was no Stan. I was on my own, right? So I guess I say all that to frame a question of what was the biggest change for you, or how did you change? How did you have to change going from someone working as an employee, clocking in, and just kind of working within the framework of an already established business? What was one or two of the biggest things you had to change, or how did you grow? Or even right now sitting here, what do you need to work on, kind of thing, to make you dialed in? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so launching out and starting was almost too much fun, because I just worked around the clock, and I tend to be someone who does work a lot.
Okay.
And I just tend to, bolt in and do it. And that's really what happened. And I probably almost pulled in too much and, set my hard head down and started driving. And coming out of that and learning to, separate myself from the business. Mm-hmm. This isn't me. The business isn't me. I'm not the business. And create that separation. Really challenging, even still.
Yeah.
Much easier now than it was, starting out and having to learn everything. But that's probably was the hardest thing.
Interesting.
Learning. I love learning new things, learning to do wear all the hats. That wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
Get this up here.
Yeah. And I was like, is that me? I had to look.
My wife is blowing me up.
No, it's all good. And did you have a follow-up?
No. Yeah. It's part of that. Where I thought you were going with Stan is, you, even though you're on your own, you still have somebody you can be like, hey, I have a question for you. Did you have somebody that you could call, or were you kind of like, this is like new, and there wasn't another Arbor Supply minded person to help you?
No, there really wasn't. And I had some guys with some retail, but for the most part, it was all trying to figure a lot of stuff out on my own. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that, selling tree work, selling like outdoor services is completely different than selling a product.
Interesting.
The way I don't make my money by making sure that Paul is working, 40 hours a week.
Right.
I make my money by selling product. And I have a mix of it just because of what we do, you know, some of the repair and some of the splicing, but it's still not, I'm still not making my money from that service.
Okay.
Right.
So it's a completely different way of thinking about, you know, how do I bring income in? Because I'm not guaranteed a return on my guy's
until
time.
It sells. Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. No, that
exactly.
makes.
And that's exactly right. So my guys go and they splice rope up. I might not get paid for that for 2 months.
Right.
Where.
Yeah. I think a lot of people too underestimate, like I'm sitting here and I'm just looking around, you know, all these hard hats. And I mean, we all know there's probably, let's just say 30, 40 hard hats. I see some lowering devices over there, a whole wall of beaners. Well, I know when I check out and I write a check for $1,000, easy, right?
Yeah.
What this inventory is worth. This is cash money sitting here. That's your money invested, tied up.
Yes.
And that's the part of it that a lot of people, I mean, I'm looking right around your counter. It's awesome. Bags of rope, which is kind of like unfair. It's like candy at checkout. You know, they put the Kit Kat bar right there. You're checking out. You're like, yeah, sure. I need a rope.
Throw that
shiny, new. It's not dirty. I'll take 2 of these. You know, it's psychology. So Ray's gotten better at retail. He puts all the trinkets right by the checkout. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand it. And by the way, there's a whole second floor of rope. More stuff, rope, bags, things like that. And that's something I hadn't thought of. I remember an old mentor telling me once, because I have a location. He's like, you know, you're selling all service. He's like, you should try to mix in some product. And I took it to heart. So we do a little firewood, some milled wood, some wood chips, mulch. Like even when we do like a fertilizer job, you know, that stuff is a product that we move. So it's an interesting thought that you don't get it. You're gambling.
And when you sell that product, you have to think about, okay, now are there tax breaks for me in the things that work for selling the product? So like, can I get my chain tax free because I'm selling firewood? Can I and I don't know all those because laws are different places, but if you're using it in manufacturing of another product,
it's not taxed till the end product.
That's correct. If you're charging sales tax on the firewood, and I don't know, I mean, the tax laws in this industry are absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
I have a friend who's a CFO and a certified accountant. He said, I won't mess with your stuff. It's too complex.
Oh, wow.
Well, I know in the beginning, early on, we didn't tax stump grinding for whatever reason, and now it is. But 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't.
No charge on stump grinding.
I do want to circle back to it just because it was interesting, like you mentioned about having that safety net to go back to. Yeah. Well, and this is an age thing. So when I left in 93, there was no cell phone. So if I'm out on a job site, I can't text Stan. I can't call Stan. I would literally have to like go off the job, find a pay phone. For those of you that don't know, there used to be phones at local stores and parking lots.
When you leave here, just up the road, there's that little Churchtown Supply company.
Yep.
He's got an old phone booth outside.
There you go.
There's no phone in there anymore.
Yeah. You have to drop a dime or a quarter in there. Make it, hey, Stan, like, you know, and he'd have to answer, which he never did. There was always but yeah, it's just interesting. And I mean, I can remember early on, like if somebody, you know, something happened on a job site, like there's a car in the way when the crew gets there, they have no way to communicate with me. And early on, we had the little gray Motorola like flip phone with these LED
huge
squishy buttons, you know, and it was, so.
Phone is like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's big, yeah.
I was like, let me get my phone, you know, big giant thing, you know. So, you mentioned something about the work thing. So Ray, one of the things he is a family man, and Ray, congratulations, just had another baby, right? And I'm just going to let you tell the number. What's the number of kids you have?
10.
Okay. So Ray's a busy man. So, and I think this is beneficial just from the standpoint of guys that work a lot, because you mentioned like you were a grinder, and that you had to kind of reel yourself sort of back in. And I get that. You know, my business was ran out of my house for the longest time, and we built a shop next door, and just having that little bit of separation psychologically was really important. How did that affect how did that affect you being like a dad and being present in that moment? And how was it navigating that? And what is your wife's name, by the way?
Rebecca.
How did that work with Rebecca? Was she on board? Was there a little tension? Like, hey, I understand you need to do your Am I cutting deep here or what?
No, I was the hesitant one. My wife was pushing me like, you need to do this. Like, yeah, I mean,
dude, keep going.
Yeah, my wife is so on board. I mean, she was just, you need to do this, go. Like, biggest encouragement.
Awesome.
My wife is awesome.
Yes.
I mean,
I
would not be anywhere without my wife.
That's
you know
huge,
what I mean?
man.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how big was that for you?
I wouldn't have done it. I'd still be sitting back thinking about it.
Right.
I mean,
wow, dude.
Well, good job, Rebecca. Good job.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Just want to say.
Applause. And I feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, you saying that once again is awesome, because regardless on either side, male, female, whatever, like any relationship, there is a sense that if you're going to try to work on a goal or achieve something, you have to have somebody who's supportive.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying I was just more laid back and cautious, and her being like, no, like this could work out for you and for us. Is really cool. I love it because, and I'm sure you know too. My wife Tracy is the same thing. Like I'm more of the one to go get it and then figure it out, kind of a thing. But she's more reserved. But at the same time, she's so supportive of it. And the main thing is because it's almost like I know what you're going to become and what you become, and you come back home being that new person.
Yeah,
the benefits the relationship. And, you know, and you said you have 10 kids. They all benefit from that.
Yeah.
You know, and I just love, I didn't expect that to hear that from you, to be honest with you.
Really?
I really expect you to be the one who's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for this. Rebecca, you cool? Like, you take care of the kids. I'll put my, you know, just go for it.
It was unknown. Like if it had been something that I was familiar with and comfortable with, like had it been, you know, I'm going to go buy a chipper in a truck and I'm going to go run.
Yeah.
I would have been pushing, but it was unknown. Like it was completely different. It was outside of my wheelhouse. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Love it.
Where if it had been, you know, I'm going to go start this, she still would have been supportive, but I would have been the one, okay, we're going to do this.
What you're saying is you would, it's something that you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Where this was unknown, was like, I don't know, but I still love it. I still love that she was go for it, because it's so, you need that. That's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Like, and you know, like we're a podcast about trees, but it's relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And relationship can sink if two people don't work together to make it work.
Yeah.
You know. So again,
do you need to take a break and call the wife real quick? Because
no, this is the store phone.
Okay, because I don't want to inhibit that. Like you got a family, they're up the road.
I mean, if she needs to, she'll stop in.
Okay, all right,
I mean, it's
cool. And she's
okay.
supportive anyway, so
exactly.
she, you know. But it's cool. There's two things that I want to just kind of, because it's really amazing. Like, you're the face of the company. People know Ray. Rebecca is kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah,
but the role is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with you. You're the brand. You're Brick Riley. People know you. You compete. You speak. You do all these cool things. Tracy's behind the scenes, supportive, pushing, and just honestly, just making sure that there's comfort there, right? And it's like, babe, I got this. And it's the same thing with me at home. My wife, to some degree, is involved in the business. She does like payables and things like that. And she's also that sort of grounding rod where it's like, she wants to weigh it, and I'm kind of the visionary pushing. Not all my ideas are great, but I'm the personality and the, you know what I'm saying?
No,
so that, I mean, it's vital. And look, there's going to be times when that's reversed. Doesn't matter, male, female, like you said before. If there's a female entrepreneur out there and has a person in their life or whatever, same thing. Those roles are vital. And I just think it's really cool that what I say is like, my wife creates space for me to allow me to do what I do. I run all day, and she just allows me the space. There's not a lot of like, where are you, this, that, and it just having that freedom, and then being able to come home, decompress, have family time, have conversations. That's a question for you, because I think I'm super proud of all my kids. They all do like really cool things. Mason, my son, works with me. And I think what was vital for us as the kids grew up was like dinner time together and unpack these conversations. Do you guys have sort of a thing that you do that keeps you grounded?
Yeah. I mean, we have dinner every night together.
Yeah.
Now, some of them are starting to get older, have jobs.
Of
so
course.
we're not home all the time. But I mean, we have dinner pretty much every night.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
there may be 1 or 2 nights where, one or 2 of them are gone, but
Yeah. Do you guys have conversations around like life and things? And like, do you feel like that's a vital part of kind of that?
Yeah.
Bringing the family together?
Those happen probably more one-on-one just because we have such a wide range.
Do you have a big table?
Oh, we have a huge table.
I love it, dude.
Imagine
So
Thanksgiving,
cool.
right? Like,
Yeah, dude,
Right?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
How
no,
many are coming? Well, I mean, just us is 12. It's like, yeah, all right. Bring a bus, That's great, dude. Listen, people like you should have tons of kids. I'm just going to tell you, like, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
But to your point, I know it's almost like you can have the talks, but the individual part, because every different personalities.
Yes.
That's kind of what you're going with, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
you can have general,
Sure.
like the same thing. We each have 3, but it's still the same. Like you can have a general conversation, and then there's a little bit of like
Yeah.
the 4-year-old and the 11-year-old are gonna be different
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
It's awesome. It's like doing a 1-to-1 in your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did it. You guys ready for a movie reference?
Let's go. What do you got?
So I think it's Rocky 2. I think it's when Adrian's like this is something that I always use. And this is what I try to tell my wife is like, she's in the hospital and Rocky's all, and Mick's giving him grief. Like, what's the matter with you? This kind of stuff. And I don't know, and it's that scene where she kind of wakes up and she's like, what are you doing? She's like, she didn't want him to fight, and then she turns and looks at him and goes, there's just one thing I want you to do. And he's like, yeah, what's that? She's like, win. And the music keys up and it's like, I don't think people realize the value in that. Like having someone that wants you to win and is like in your corner, it's huge.
Massive.
So I thought of that right away when I was like, it's that scene with Adrian, man, and it allows you the space and the drive to go out and conquer the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Which I think this might be a segue. Relationships. You have an Arbor Supply place. How is it? Because interface is a new word for me. It's a word that's out there, but it seems to be coming up a lot. The interface is going to be different. So I was just curious, like how that is, like on your day, like is that your relief from the business? Like just curious.
Oh, that's a great question. It depends on the day, really.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the day. Because some days, I'm a very, I can be extroverted and introverted at the same time. So like, if I have a lot of people time, sometimes I'm like, I'm done. You know what I mean? I need that
100%.
introvert time.
Yeah.
And I can go home and still get that with my people.
Yeah.
And then other times, it's just the stress of, it's been quiet in the store, not many people coming in, just doing the book work, paying bills. And that's a different type of stress altogether, right?
Yeah.
So, and then when I go home, that's that release.
Yeah. We always say like sometimes when you have more, I have more month at the end of my money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, man. Like you get pinched, whatever, cash flow is weird. And, people, just so like you're not alone if you're out there struggling some days. I don't know what it is for you, but for us, it could be like municipal jobs. You go out and you put your guys on stuff and they're hammering and you're not going to see that money for 30, 60 days, whatever.
We used to do, back when I was in the field, we did right-of-way stuff for some phone companies, 90 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That hurts, man. 90 days is tough.
And you're going out and they would give you like a chunk up front, but that chunk was like, I was gone in 2-3 days. So in March you get like $5 or $6 grand and then you're not getting paid again until, July. When you've already, you've got to pay for all the materials and all the labor and.
Yep. I mean, I know a lot of companies use, lines of credit and things,
Yeah.
to kind of make that up, but then you're paying that stuff back. But yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship, it's that whole thing we were talking about earlier. Like, it looks sexy, and but it's also not, it's also not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not for everybody.
And I'll jump on that because I do it so I can get better. I do a lot of reading, trying to dive into different aspects to become a better version of myself. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
Correct.
It's not. And I'll for everybody to hear me, I'm learning to become a better entrepreneur, but like my initial part of it, I just want to climb trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then I make 2,000. I made 2,000. Walk home with 2,000. But realistically, as an entrepreneur, if you made 200, and the 1,800 should go back to the truck, back to this, back to that, and there's so much to that. And I've learned that, like you said, it's sexy, like the tree climbing. I want to be the best climber in the world, but just all the steps in the process to get there, it's just it's not for everybody, and it's okay. Like find your spot. Find your spot and see like who, in a way, who you're meant to be. I don't know if that's, fair to say, but who you're meant to be instead of trying to be something that like isn't quite what you want.
Within reason though, as long as you're not being lazy about it, right? So like, maybe you are supposed to be that and you're just not trying. So there's that aspect of it as well. So I mean, not everyone's going to be a Green Beret, right? But like,
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
But
no, you got it.
If you're sitting down playing on your phone all day, like,
wow,
you're not doing anything.
Wow.
That's a totally different ball game than I'm just not capable. Like, I'm convinced you've got genius, right? And then you've got a hard worker who can perform as much as a genius because they put their nose to the grindstone and worked it out. Mm-hmm. You can't say, I'm just not as smart as this guy, I'm not going to try.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's it.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've always seen myself as a lunch pail guy. I pack my lunch every day. I get up and I go to work. That is, I don't know. I mean, I have certain things that I do in terms of like writing and creative stuff. Mm-hmm. But my thing is like, I just get up and go to work every day and grind. I know there's people that are way more like just business oriented and they manage spreadsheets and cash flow and they're like savants with the money and I think I tend to agree that the how's it's an interesting saying. There's a thing Katie said last time about you can't outwork your diet. Mm-hmm. But I think in some cases, and what I'm hearing you saying is you can outwork your lack, though.
Yes.
Like, so there may be gifts and talents you don't have, but you can get on it and grind and get up every day. And imagine if you have, and I know there's an old cliche, I'm trying to not say it because it's a cliche at this point, but it's that, what am I trying to say? It's like talent or hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, something like that.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. Yeah.
So, you've got these gifts. I mean, that's what, again, cliche, but that's what made Jordan so special was he had a certain amount of talent. And same thing with Kobe.
But it was all work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like he got like cut from a team and like I remember reading Tim Grover's book. This is a book plug, Winning.
Winning.
Mm-hmm. And when he coached both of these guys. Mm-hmm. And the amount of drive these dudes had, they were the classic show up at the gym at whatever and do their 100 free throws or 500 free throws or whatever it was. Like, it was dark out and no one was around. And these guys were already probably the best player on the team, but they knew what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll drive it home and like the point, and what I was saying is like the point, definitely put the work in, work ethic, drive hard, but who you, for example, you want to be an astronaut. You don't not try to be an astronaut. But when you become the best version of yourself, that's what I meant. It's like you don't know if the astronaut, maybe along the way, kind of like you.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best where I'm going to show up and help this company build into something else. And I hear you. It's the same thing, you know? So to your point, correct. And to your point, correct in that even when you're the best, you still want to put the work in.
Yeah.
Because what that means later, who knows?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a little bit of talent, but the work ethic is like equal to the talent.
Yeah.
And they both can do great, but at some point, something's going to happen. And you know what I mean? And it depends on their choice at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how we got to that point.
Yeah, no, there could be an awakening, right? Where the one with talent realizes or looks over and all of a sudden the person
my brother's kicking my butt.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, geez, how did this happen? I was always able to take him in these grappling matches we would have in the front lawn. Well, he's been out there doing drills,
calisthenics,
you know,
stuff,
drills and drills and drills, you know, making himself better or whatever. And it's all of a sudden like maybe a light goes on, you know?
Yeah.
So this is an oddball question, sort of out of left field, but is there one specific thing that you knew you were deficient in, right? Like you started this and you discovered maybe that you were like, man, I'm that you drilled into that the hard work overcame? Like, is there
That's a great question.
You know what I mean? Is there one thing? And I know it's hard sometimes on the spot. We're just like, I'm drilling into you right now, you know, but
no, that's great.
It's valuable for the listeners, you know?
So coming from the field, I had no technology experience at all.
Okay.
Right? Like I didn't grow up. I knew we had typing class, right? Like so I could type, but computers are not my thing. So, you know, I handled the website and all the technology and getting all that set up. It's something I had to drill into and learn and work, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun. It's not glorious by any stretch, but that's probably the big one. I mean, I still have other deficiencies that I need to drill in on and work hard on because they're not my bent or really what I desire to do. But that was probably the big one, was learning how to, you know.
That's cool. And still, and just correct me if I'm wrong, still not like your favorite.
Oh, no.
Not your biggest cup
of tea.
Are you
kidding me? I hate it.
But you've learned to be proficient enough to do what you need to do to drive things forward.
Yes. No, I hate it.
And what's one of the things you feel like you don't have to try at, it just comes naturally? What's one thing? Is it
the sales?
Okay.
The relating to people. That's
I actually knew the answer.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting here.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I mean, look, the three of us, I think there's an element of natural, like we've discussed this sort of interpersonally, this is one of our goals in life, is literally to form meaningful relationships that are deep. We don't really just surface level conversation. It's fine. It's good. It's cordial.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? How's the weather? How's the kids? How's work? Are you backed up? Are you busy? That's great. Awesome. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Or we can sit and linger and chit chat a little bit and ask about your kids and ask about your gifts and talents and just, you know, I mean, oftentimes and that's the theme of the podcast, right? That's been the sort of thematically, the thing is having these conversations that you would have at shows and stuff, like kind of off to the side.
Yeah.
That you can either glean something from, or the other person can, or someone standing there listening. And pick up on.
Yeah. I would add, even later on, meaning once you form those relationships, you have something to lean on. Mm-hmm. Meaning it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be times where it's slow or something happens, you know. So that's what, you know, I'm not building relationships for that reason, but that's what comes through. You know, obviously we spoke about it in a different part, but you know, my journey, you know, my wife's cancer journey and stuff. Not to say certain people didn't show up, but there was people to lean on at that time. You know what I mean?
I know exactly.
So so definitely those side conversations, which is funny. We just did the LTE dinner, like an LTE dinner, you know, New Jersey, and you know, there's a bunch of people we have deep relationships and everything. But of course, Paula and I are in the parking lot afterwards, still going. You know,
it's like 20 degrees.
What are you doing?
And what I found funny was the Chisholm, Steve Jr. and Steve Sr. and Steve's wife Connie are kind of like walking out to the van after Now, so that meant they were like the last ones out of the building. They come out and they're like just kind of smiling at us.
Yeah.
You know, like, no wonder you two guys have a podcast where you talk, you know.
Yeah.
But then Big Steve Senior, who's been a mentor to both of us.
He came over.
Came over, engaged, told a story. I mean, it's awesome.
Great story, too.
Great story.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to have him on. We'll let him tell it on the podcast, you know, which would be amazing, right?
Yeah, he Steve. You obviously know the Chisholm, but we're talking about the dad. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if you know him. Have you met? No,
I don't think I've ever met him.
I mean, he's solid, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude is bright and built a huge business and involved his family and but also like he's, and we've never really done like this isn't like a political thing or whatever, but like he's like constitutionally savvy, like knows about law, helped get the licensed tree expert bill in New Jersey written into the right hands, passed the bill. Like he is a bright dude. And he's been a mentor, like, you know, he called me like his adopted tree son. And I'm sure this one feels the same way, you know, 30 years of mentorship from him and his kids. Like, so he emulated that to both sons, Mark and Steve, and and it's cool because in different disciplines, like Mark with the climbing, the techniques, bringing stuff back, sharing, and Steven with the knowledge and the tree ID and you need to get these certifications done and just constantly pushing the.
I'm smiling because we had a pastor that used to say, if you want to fly with the eagles, you don't walk with the turkeys.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
100%.
I love that. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it at some point. It's a good one. I haven't heard it that way.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good one.
It is
right?
a good one.
Yeah.
So really, what you're saying is you become like the people you associate with.
do.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, have you said it to your kids yet about friends? You know,
Many
what I mean?
times.
Like, you know, like you got to be careful, right? Who you're hanging with.
Yeah, very much so. And my kids are pretty good about that.
No, it's I mean, that's what you're bringing to the table. You know,
exactly.
And having those conversations.
I just said, it's, you know, we're talking to you as an arbor supply owner. You, as a tree worker, what is the thing you didn't like and the thing that you felt like it was natural for you? I don't mean
no. You know what I mean?
You know, I'm just curious.
It's good to pick that point.
Because most people, I just assume listeners always want to what's the word I'm looking for? Like, why am I listening to Ray? Like, we're a tree podcast.
I ask myself that question all the time.
Is that right? But there's a reason.
Yeah.
And you do, even if you didn't come from the background of trees, you're in the thing, you know. So I just know you are have a tree background. So it was a good question when you said, what's the thing that you had to work on, don't like, and what you like as an arbor supply place? I'm just curious. Let's go back even some more and maybe even tell a little bit of that story, how you got into trees.
Yeah. So the thing that I just loved working, right? Like, and learning new things. I am very bad at maintenance and doing the same thing over and over and over again. So like, I need new things because I thrive on that. Like building something new, building something different, trying something new. Once I hit status quo, I kind of fizzle out. I have a hard time maintaining that. So in any realm, that's me. And that's a real, even now, like, you know, how do I keep from stagnating? Because I don't do well there. So that's kind of how the tree thing started, you know. Learn lawn care, learn about soil management, and then take that from that to shrubs, and then bigger and bigger, and then to trees. Then I want to learn to climb because that's the next thing, right? Like,
that's cool.
So that was the progression of that, and really for me, it was about the plants themselves. I've always loved plants. Even now, I'm like, it's about the trees. It's not about the gear or even the work. Like, I like the plants. I like
that's
the
really
trees.
cool. I mean, that's neat
cool
to hear that too, because it'd be very easy to just be a guy that's just all gear. So and actually, that's not to interrupt the flow here, but like, I just feel like that's because we've talked about it. It's what we like.
Yeah.
being in the trees. You know, it's a common theme with you, Desmond, me, Derek, Tatey, like all these guys. It's like it's about the trees. So the fact that you're running a store and you've got that, I think it's big.
Yeah,
there's a connection there. So.
Yeah.
Did I cut you off?
No, you're good.
So it was
You're
that
good.
constant change, like learning, growing in our sort of industry that allowed you to kind of scratch that itch of new stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
When you got to the climbing part, did you how do I say this? When you got to the climbing part before Lyme became the issue, did you have an idea of what might be next?
No,
because
I mean, honestly, man. So when I first started climbing, there was no gear involved, right? Like just free climb, go up, take this limb off. Like that's just what we did.
I know.
I mean, there were no treat. There were. I mean, we're talking early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hard hats weren't a thing.
No,
and I mean, we didn't use gear. You just climb up 30, 40, 50 feet with no gear, take a limb off, and then you climb back down. That's kind of how we did it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good or right, but it's just
of course
what we did. And then I had a guy that worked for a local tree service, and he's like, "You need gear.
Yeah. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he taught me how to use a rope, and for the longest time, that was such a mental block. I'm like,
gonna slow me down.
Exactly.
Same.
Rope. Like, what am I doing with rope? Like, learn, like, because I didn't have to trust in myself anymore, right? Like, now I had to trust the rope in the tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was
I come from the same path, just so you know. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Like the rope is a tool.
Yeah.
But it's a tool in the way. Like, let me just put it back. Let me just do what I do. But safety wise, obviously, is smarter. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know his story at all?
So
no. he basically, long story short, it's on an episode we went through it, but he basically was just like parkouring in the trees, like as a release.
Yeah.
So dealing with deafness and everything, and coming up, and just all the stuff that he was dealing with. He started this term, and I kind of like, I'm gonna say a curse word, but like human shit.
Yeah.
Like he was dealing with all this stuff. And a big release for him was to just go out and climb. And then he started like jumping from trees, and then someone introduced him to the industry and was like, you can do that as a job. And he was like, really, can I? And,
with the rope and harness.
Right. And then he's like,
I wasn't doing it.
Correct.
I was like, why are you doing that? I'm like, this is what I do. Yeah, but you could use a rope and harness and get paid. So that's why I'm like, I hear you. Yeah. I'm like, I wasn't doing tree work when I was doing it, but it's the same thing. Like, why? Just
climbing the tree and
just climb the tree. What's the problem?
Yep.
There's no problem, but it's like actually there's a big problem. You could die.
Yeah,
So
you're not like a bumble that you don't bounce.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
So it's just cool because there's a progression. You love plants, grass, shrubs, trees, and then it sounds like when you got into a little bit of rope harness, that's when Lyme is that kind of about right?
That was when I found that I had Lymes, and at that point I had it for probably a couple years and just didn't know it. Where it really hit.
This might be just a great place to just kind of hit the pause button and just, I don't want to make this like a huge Lyme episode, but I did see, and I feel bad that I don't remember. There's a guy you might know. He has a podcast, British.
For trees.
He's an arborist, and he talked about getting misdiagnosed, thought he had MS like Lou Gehrig's or this or that. And he just did a 1 hour or half hour thing I watched on YouTube. I feel so bad that I can't, because I really want to give him a shout out here.
Yeah.
But it's just not, he has like a blue logo, and it's like a climbing thing.
Is it the Climbing Arborist?
I think it is. I think it is.
Say it again.
Is it Dan from Climbing Arborist?
I think it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Keep going.
I think it is. I think it is. He's British. He's got an English accent. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the dude. Thank you. Yes. Okay. But I just want to.
The Climbing Arborist.
Yeah.
The Climbing Arborist is the name of it, and I'll think of the last name. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's not unlike my story. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time here, but what happened was, so I'll be 60 in April. Well, in my mid 40s, I started to do some CrossFitting. And I guess I did that for 5 or 6 years. Long story short, I'm about 48 years old, and I used to go pretty religiously to the 3:30 class for CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would show up about 30 minutes early, usually in my truck, and I would literally pass out in my truck. Like I would take a nap and then I would go in.
Mm-hmm.
And my mindset was, well, I'm almost 50, and everything I hear from all the old guys is, wait till you're 50, this hurts, that hurts. So it's this narrative I believed. And so, I mean, this was my life. And I started feeling drained, and I would do jobs, and I would feel, and I was like, you know what? I get tested for Lyme. No, you don't have Lyme. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward now to a year ago, December, and I'm to the point where I am going out to work, and I'm the high motor guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that goes out on a job from the time I was 18, doing any job, working in a warehouse to a kitchen to being on the tree crew. Yeah. And I'm like, zoop, 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 zoop. I could really relate to what Derek was saying, like the Energizer Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do with this kid? I'm in school. Sit down. Stop getting out of your seat. Like, this is little Paul.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm faced with this new reality that I
can't move.
I don't have energy. Yeah. Everything hurts. My muscles are cramping. I was in a comp. Looking back at it now, the year I was 48, was it last year? I'm footlocking. And I get 2/3 of the way up, and every muscle in my body is knotting up. And I'm going, what? And I'm thinking, it's an electrolyte thing. Okay. So fast forward to, like I said, a year ago, whatever. Well, now it's bad. And I go out, and I can only work about 4 hours until things start to knot, but I'm using mentality to push through. Mm-hmm. And then I come home, and I'm crashing for like 2 hours after work. Well, now I'm starting to lose cognition. Mm-hmm. Where like I would be sitting here, and I'd be like, yeah, so yesterday, and I'd look right at you and I'd go, I'm like trying to find your name. And I'm like, it's Ray. He's right. I'm like, what is, well, my kids and my wife started noticing. They're like, what is wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. I go to a Lyme literate doctor. First of all, the problem is people that you get false negatives. Yep. If they're just doing a normal test, I never had a bullseye. Well, this Lyme infection is 10 years old. And when they did this blood panel, a very advanced sort of where they check, I don't even know. It's like they go into your like immunoglobulin and whatever.
Yeah, that's how it was for me too.
Yeah. And she's like, by the looks of your test, first of all, I have 3 separate co-infections, but she's like, it looks to me like you were infected, not treated, infected, not treated, infected, not treated. You've got one infection that's this old, and the numbers are through the roof. I've never seen numbers this high. This is this. And she went on. She's like, I've never seen numbers this high. I've been doing this for 10 years. She's like, it's no wonder you feel like crap.
Wow.
So, and now I'm in a battle now. And I don't say that for pity. Like I'm functioning, and because it can really jack your brain up. Mm-hmm. It can really cause like depression, and there's a lot of things, and
What are you taking for it?
So right now, I do herbals. Yeah. I'm on these herbal tinctures. It's a long-term by this company called Nutrimedics.
Okay.
It's a Christian-based company, blah, blah, but I see a functional medicine doctor. Mm-hmm. The problem is when you get newly infected, and I'm just going to make a disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor, that whole thing. Like,
I did not know that.
Yeah, see your doc. I play one on TV.
Okay.
Whatever. The fact of the matter is, like, what I was told was that when you're newly infected and the infection's in your blood, the antibiotics will knock the numbers down quickly. But once it migrates into tissues and different things, the antibiotics have a very hard time getting to the spirochetes, which are the Lyme infection. And the problem is then if you're bombing with hardcore antibiotics, now you're messing with your gut microbiome. And
which is what they did to me.
You're throwing your health off in a whole nother. So I'm unwilling to go hard. I did one course of antibiotics when I got bit by a tick back in the summer. And the way my healthcare provider explained it to me is like, you're symptomatic when you get bit again. It's like throwing a lit match in a box of firecrackers. Because I started to and she's like, yeah, your body's freaking out.
Yeah.
I also do blood ozone and ultraviolet light therapy now, where they take my blood out, they put it in, mix it with some saline, they inject ozone gas into it, and then they put it through a UV light, and it kills bacteria, and they put it back in. I did my second treatment yesterday, and they said after 8 to 10, I should start to feel, because now I'm dealing with Bartonella.
Yes, I've had that,
which is nasty. I've had a headache for a month. Now I don't, sitting here now. But so I don't know if you guys want to quickly share. The main thing I want listeners to get to is like, if you don't feel like yourself, and also know that these Lyme tests where they just go, when you go to an urgent care, your doctor, and they pull a Lyme titer, you are very likely to get a false negative.
Yeah. Short story of mine is, I didn't know I got bit, didn't see a tick. Felt my leg right here, it was hot and red. You know, I'm like, oh, it's weird. My God. And then it got bigger and redder, but no bullseye. So I guess we were swollen, like hot to the touch. Right? I'm like, wow. I'm like, all right. I go to urgent care.
Yep.
You know, urgent care. Oh yeah, maybe it could be Lyme. Did you get bit? I'm like, no, listen, because I'm a tree worker. Like maybe I'd scratch it and ripped off the tick. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but they were looking at me like, you don't know. I'm like, I'm telling you, I didn't take anything off.
You come home with wounds, and your wife's like, what happened? I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't feel it.
You know, so So like, yeah, you know, the symptoms look like it might be a tick. So, and same thing, antibiotics, you know, do this. Well, the next day it was purple, but a purple bullseye.
Whoa.
So I was like,
now you're scared.
Yeah, for real though. Yeah. Like for real, I would definitely.
Especially if it's warm.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is not good. So I go back and like, and I got the doctor at the urgent care, and he's super cool. This one, and again, I forgot his name, but he was so good. He shouldn't be in an urgent care. He should have his own practice.
Yeah.
Like that's how good he was, you know? Yeah. He's like, listen, you just hang out here. Here's the antibiotics, you know, the IV. Just hang out. Leaves, come back. Now I'm really nervous, right? He comes back. No, I just had to get together with all the other physicians just to talk about this. And I forget the percentage, but he's like, we've never seen a purple bullseye, but apparently it's 2% of the bullseye is purple. Normally it's red. And when I say purple, you know, like black,
like black and blue punch.
You're a high performer.
A high performer.
When you do you do it right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I know. I wish that were the case, right? But so he was like, yeah. So everything's the same as Lyme. We were just concerned, like, why is it purple? It's really weird. So I'm like, all right. So he's like, this is what we do. This is what we know. Do doxycycline, do the stuff. So I'm like, okay. Like, no, you know, not thinking of it. 3 weeks of that, this and that. But we double dose, mind you, 3 weeks of that. But as I didn't change my diet, I didn't do any. I would just take it and just keep doing what I'm doing. But I was progressively getting worse to the point that depression was kicking in, the brain fog. And like I'm 870, 80 feet, 40 feet out in the Arboretum, and I'm just like, man, I can't, like, I know I have to cut this way, but the rope doesn't, like, it's just not right. You know what I mean? So I know it's because my mental state is not good. So everything worked out, you know, thankfully, but then I got to a point, I was telling my mom about it. I'm like, listen, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, but it's not working. And then my mom, obviously my biggest advocate, she ended up talking, she remembers her cousin being, dealing with chronic fatigue back in the 80s and 90s, you know, so she reached out to her, and it turns out because Lyme disease wasn't known then, she for years and years sick and chronic. Well, you just, you know, you just don't, you know, it's always just dismissive, you know, you have a problem, it's all in your head, blah, blah, blah. Well, then when they finally started Lyme understanding it, they were able to be like, oh, you've been affected for 10, 15 years. So when she talked to her cousin reached out to me like, listen, I don't know what you believe in. I don't want to say anything other than this is what I've learned from my journey. There's infectious disease doctors and there's Lyme literate physicians. There's two schools of thought. One is take doxycycline and it's all in your head from that point on. And false negatives, so, you know, and then the other one is Lyme literate that understand that no, there is like a real thing here. We have to, it's so crafty, and the disease is so crafty that it can bury into different aspects, give different symptoms to people. So we have to. There's a dance now. We got to figure out how to do this. So I went back in infectious disease. I'm like, I'm not ready to go. And he literally said, he's like, yeah, listen, like you're good. Everything's fine. I don't know what's going on, but that's something you got to deal with. And my mom was there with me because I had my son. My son was 1 or 9 months, whatever it was. And I needed her to watch him. And she was pissed. You know what I mean? So fast forward to go to Lyme Literate Path, find a great guy in Morristown. Literally first day, sat down 3 hours, just talking like we are. Mm-hmm. What do you do? Where do you want to be? When you first got bit, and like just who are you? What are you about? You know, what religion? Like everything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like this guy's a physician. He's got to make money by seeing people. Yeah. But he's got me for 3 hours. So I was like, he's on to something. Like he's trying to get me to be better. Same thing. He's like, listen, since you had the bullseye, doxycycline, I'm sorry, but let's get back on this. But you have to change your diet. We need to start switching into, it's like sauerkraut, fermented foods.
Yes.
Is it fermented foods?
My wife would love this.
Yeah,
dude.
Okay. So fermented foods is a major thing. But he was like, listen, the more you do that work, the doxycycline can do its job, and then everything you put on top of that, and you should be able to get out of this before it turns into something nastier, you know. So now I'm like, all right, I went and did all the research on books. Like I had to like essentially just strip everything from diet, and I think, and I forget, it was probably like 170. Let's just say 170, 172 at that time, and I went down to 139, 142 in body weight, like sunken in.
I remember when you got real skinny.
Yeah, but I was feeling primo. I was feeling awesome, mentally clear. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, this is the best I've ever felt in my whole life. You know, so it's really weird. It's like, you know, my mom's like, you need to eat. I'm not happy with what you're doing. I know you feel better, but this is not okay. Like you look sick. You know, I'm like, I don't care. I feel great. You know. So long story short is, coming back from that, like as I got back to normal, I've been okay. And there's always weird moments here and there. Like, you know, I'm like, is it really gone? Is it, you know, I'm not sure. So I would say I'm grateful that it was I got bit. I had the bullseye to have a plan right off the bat, rather than like yourself, my mom's cousin, and sounds like you were already infected for so long before you found out to figure out what to do. So that's my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, I think it's important to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened with you?
So I said we did work for phone companies. I did right of way specifically.
Yeah.
So I mean, imagine right away, right?
Oh,
like
yeah,
you're
dude.
in the
Vegetation.
you're in the
Tick
junk.
haven. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the last time I remember getting bit was just, I don't know, 5 miles from here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So long before we were ever out here.
Yep.
So I was bitten in Jersey, actually, somewhere down around the Cape.
Sure, blame Jersey. Thank you.
The Garden State, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go.
I'm just saying, there's 3 guys here, and we all were bitten in Jersey.
Good point.
I just read a thing the other
kidding,
day about stats. It is one of the highest.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that it's not actually around here.
Yep.
Okay.
Bad.
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have a bullseye show up.
Okay.
But, you know, this was back before you're thinking Lymes. My father-in-law at the time, we were just married. So my father-in-law had Lymes. He had some doxycycline. I just took what he had. I was like, oh, I'm good. So I took like whatever he had left over. I'm like, all right, I'm good. It's done. No issues. Years. No issues. Wow. Didn't feel a thing. All good. So that was 2000 and we were married in 6. So that was 2007.
Okay.
Keep on doing it. 2010. So 3 years in, I have a job I'm running the grounds of a retirement community, and all the symptoms are starting to come in. The fatigue, the brain fog, I don't know how you guys were. I was like a pregnant woman. Like my emotions were all over the place. Like I'd break down crying for no reason. Like when I come home and I sit at the table and I'm like bawling my eyes out.
Wow.
And I'm not a crier.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Out of character.
So,
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but something's wrong. So, there was a doctor who, I'm not quite sure how I would classify him. He was more of a naturopath, but he was very much into the antibiotics.
Okay.
So went and got a test like you did.
Yep.
And it showed I had Lymes and Bartonella, and there may have been something else.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But he put me on doxycycline for a year.
Wow.
And that was the worst.
It wrecked you.
Oh my goodness. So probably up until 2010, for 3 or 4 years, I was sick all the time. I mean, that just completely wrecked everything.
Yep.
And in the meantime, I had been bitten again 2 more times. So I would tell my wife, like, one time I was bitten and I was like, I have a tick. I don't know where. I know I was bitten. I can tell. Like, it's just felt like a whole new wave. And then sure enough, we found a tick.
Okay.
So that happened to me twice. And really it was the herbal. It was Japanese knotweed was a big one. I forget where, what all we did, but I mean, I still deal with it. I still have like the cramping and the brain fog from time to time and the tiredness, but not like it was
That's good.
back then.
The big thing, man, the big takeaway really is just to get guys checked. And we talked about doing a like an episode kind of like devoted to it, but I think having you have it and the 3 of us are sitting here, it kind of seemed like the perfect time to talk about it.
Especially when it's the genesis of having this.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Being
Yeah.
like, like I got to figure something out, you know?
The big takeaway is you're not going to always have a bullseye. You're not always going to know your bit. In our industry, you're rubbing, bumping, you're getting torn, you know. You don't even realize half of it.
But even in my reading, even and I'm messing up the numbers, but essentially only 20 people get the bullseye anyway, even if you're not in a tree business.
Mm-hmm.
So even then, it's still not. It's not supposed to be seen as only marker.
Right.
That's kind of so you have it that actually helps you because it identifies it right away. But I think it's only 20 people get it anyway.
Well, oddly enough, for me, part of what my thing was is I have, and you can see the little brown mark.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one there.
Okay.
I have one on my chest. I have a big one here.
Oh yeah.
Like this big. I have one on my back. Like these brown, I call them like lesions or whatever started showing up.
You don't know.
And I didn't know. And then I self-diagnosed that I had this virus.
Okay.
And I read up on it. I'm like, oh, this is what it is. And it was like 6 to 8 weeks, it'll be gone. Well, 10 weeks later, 12 weeks later. And I'm like, yeah. Then I went back to the books and I was like, I think it's Lyme. And that's when I went. And now they're just starting to fade. But I've had these marks on my body for over a year now.
Crazy.
So we
can put in a button in. I would just say this for the listeners and you guys put your input. But just understand that you're going to get it. A tick. It's going to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean, and without going off, but it's going to happen. So it's more of like be knowledgeable.
Vigilant too.
What, say again?
You have to be vigilant. Like,
Like
I found, you talked about, so not to be whatever, but, they hide. The one I found on me was right in my groin line.
I had one on my private part.
Yeah, me too.
Mine, that's where mine was.
Right
well.
right
so
on my scrotum.
Yeah.
I just said that word. It's all good. Hey, we're all big people here.
Yes, we are. But it's still funny how we have to be careful
balls.
how we say.
I could have just said balls.
And then we would have giggled.
Yeah. You're supposed to use a Latin term, Paul. But anyway, to the listeners, like, listen, we kind of dived into this because it is something that does affect you.
Yeah.
If not wreck your life. I mean, that's how I felt, right? I would think we're on the same page.
It's part of why I started getting contract guys.
Okay.
Because I knew I didn't have the endurance anymore. If I couldn't finish a job in about 3 hours of working a loft, I had to have somebody else come in because I didn't know how I would be an hour 4 or 5. Like I might have to shut it down.
Yeah.
Because the body just was not cooperating. No. That's what started me on the path. Because skill-wise, I can still do what I need to do. I don't lack the skill to do these big jobs. I just know that I can't be 4 or 5 hours working in a tree. I just can't. I don't have the stamina right now.
Yeah, so I think with that, be diligent about it, and then understand, again, make your choice, but there's 2 different schools of thought. Pick one. I say go Lyme literate. You guys homeopathic.
I agree.
I think we're in agreement that that's the route you want to go rather than this, but
do your own research.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good button on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So,
and I want to go back to, and I don't know, are you good, Ben? Everything's good? Checking with our producer.
Just maybe tilt your mic a little bit down a little more.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about shows, right? Like we were talking about expo. So you set a booth up, and I think it's good to tie it together with the store, right? Like people see the store and they don't realize the inventory. Show comes, they walk up, your booth's there, all the stuff, your ambassadors, things are buzzing and humming. Couple things. What is it like to prepare for something like that, and how long before do you start, and how much stuff do you take? And then that's the part that's the work, but what part of it do you like? Like what are the benefits and the drawbacks of mobilizing this store and getting on the road and going and doing the show? Because we're the beneficiaries of y'all being there, and it's all fun and exciting, but you guys are doing some real work. What's that like setting up for an expo?
Oh, it's a lot of work. We usually take about a week to prepare beforehand.
Okay.
Get the inventory ready to go, get the setup, get our displays ready to go. Even, kind of, we've got to think about what what promos are we going to run, what sales are we going to run, what are we going to push. I mean, that starts, well in advance, kind of prepping that. We trailer it all in. My wife and kids go with me to every show. I don't fly solo.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
We typically have, somewhere around $80,000 to $100,000 worth of inventory at a show, just to give you an idea.
Wow. Yeah. That's that's awesome.
And then the show. I mean, the shows they can be fun. They're a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the work aspect of it, where it's just cranking, selling.
Okay.
That's not so much fun, but getting to kick back and hang out,
Yeah. Like after the floor closes, you mean? Like those interactions with people. And so it's back to the networking. It's back to the relationship building.
Yeah.
Now, do you have an opportunity to, because I know you had, like this year you have, how many ambassadors do you have, by the way? Is there
you lost count.
Is there a lot? Is there 8, 10, 20? Like how many?
No, there's not that many.
Yeah.
Is it 5?
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you hang, like, do you hang with your team? Is there a day dedicated, or do you hang with some folks?
We usually try to dedicate some time and have them come in.
Okay. Yep. Like at the show.
The show.
Yeah.
After hours, everybody's kind of going their own way, doing their own thing.
Okay.
Which is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll have time with the vendors.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
Kind of get that side of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Because there are guys coming in that we only see once a year. I mean, some of the guys from overseas.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And do you, it sounds like it can be brisk there. So in terms of like moving gear, hey, everybody.
Right.
Like we said, we're actively in a working store, kind of doing our thing here.
Yeah.
So when you do that show, is it worth it? Like, do you move enough material? And I'm sure there's two sides to it, right? Like you sell stuff then, but you're also selling
the business
at the store, right?
Yes, we're also selling at the store. So there's kind of a hit. It's a stretch because we have the store and this is running.
Yep.
But we're also there. Generally, it's worth it. The last 2 years have been they've been down.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think some of that's, where the economy's been at, right?
Sure.
Like guys haven't been spending money.
Yep.
It's not like during COVID, you name your price and.
Oh yeah. It's also like I always felt, because I've been through several election cycles, being in business for 31 years. Election years are tough, man. There's just uncertainty, and it really doesn't matter who's in and who's coming in and who's in and out. It's just like uncertainty. It creates like a little lack of confidence.
I have a customer that's been in tree works since the 70s.
Wow.
And he started with Bartlett in the 70s and has been in business for himself since the 80s. And he said, yep, every election cycle is bad. He said it's just always a struggle. And the next year will be fine. It'll come out, but it's down.
So it's good to know. Now, do you only do TCIA Expo? Will you gear up? Are you doing like Arbor Expo? Or
There's a local show. I do the local ISA show. I've done some other ISA shows as well. Mm-hmm. They're generally about break even, so it's borderline worth it.
Yeah, effort wise.
Yeah, I mean, there are some of these guys that go to like 50 shows a year. I could never do that. I mean, one, I don't fly solo, right? So my family goes with me. So we're getting an Airbnb.
I was going to say, you can't do a hotel without get like 7 rooms. I'd like to rent the whole floor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Airbnb is $3,000 to $4,000, you know?
Of course, because it's got to house everybody.
Yeah. So, and the nice thing is, if there's guys with me, we usually try to get it set up that, okay, here's your own room in the basement.
Right.
You've got the basement.
Yeah, cool.
So that works out as long as they don't mind being with 10 kids.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. It's kind of the unseen side. Like I said, we get to see the glitz and the glamour, and I've had the privilege of getting on the floor a couple years before it was set up, like the day before, and just watching people. Mark hooked us up with a couple passes this year. My kid and I were able to get on there like the day before and see everything half done and all. And then the contrast between that and getting on there the day of the show. And people see all the shiny, cool stuff, but all the labor, man, that goes into
much
it,
work
trying to get in there. And people don't understand either. What do you mind me asking you, like, what a booth costs you? Like, what do you know what it cost you this year to set up in there? Because I'm sure it's not cheap, right?
No, I want to say it was about $8,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the other part. It's like they see all this floor space. It costs these vendors money.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a small operator.
Yeah.
You're not like 100-employee company. You're not Vermeer or Morbark or one of these giant corporations.
Yeah, one chipper in your cupboard, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
So it's a part of it a lot of people don't see. So I think I like touching on that because that's the business side of it.
I mean, I do enjoy doing the shows.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to it. Yeah. There's a lot of work.
That's awesome. Anything you want to?
No, I'm just trying, like, do you feel as you move forward, do you feel, do you have a pulse on the industry because of the expos and all the stuff? You know what I mean?
Question.
And this is just, again, disclaimer, not that it's going to happen, but let's just say like the next hot event, and it's not going to be the expo, it's going to be Joe Schmo's super party.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious about that because there's always people trying to do stuff.
Yeah, I do think Arbor Expo's popping. I mean,
okay. Yeah.
Sashin is very well organized. He's got a really tight ship. I think it's going to be.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He's got a good team.
Yeah.
I'll give you a cool little plug, and this isn't a promo, but by any stretch, I will give a plug.
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
Because what is the date? That's March 27th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
I think. I think. Yep. Correct.
So, Brick and I are going to do an Aging Arborist class there. We got a
nice
thing. We got a booth set up. We're going to kind of be there doing our thing, just kind of meeting and greeting people and engaging. And what I can tell you is I spoke at one of the events, and the vibe on the floor, the way they take care of their people. He's got Diane Morgan, who is just an incredibly gifted organizer and a sweet, sweet person. I would agree to see what he did from his very first show at Oaks. And I remember going to that and thinking, this is a nice little show.
Yeah.
And then I went to like the second and third one, and just the amount of gear and vendors and speakers. I mean, impressive.
Okay, cool.
Impressive.
Take note, people.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so that would be my take. I mean, where I see shows fail is they tend to overemphasize one way or the other, right? Like a lot of the little ISA shows have, which is one of the things New Jersey does well, is all the trainings on the floor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the downside is, no talking during the, no sales during the event. They want to keep it quiet, which rightly so. You need to be respectful. But a lot of them, they'll have classes, forever on the other side of the event. And then you've got tons of time where you're just hanging out.
Correct.
And, from a vendor standpoint, that's really difficult because I came here, I spent, $3,000.
Yeah.
I didn't come here to conduct my business remotely.
Right. And that's actually,
I get it.
Yeah, you make a fantastic point because I think at the one expo, I noticed that they dialed back classes and made it more about the floor. And from a rank and file standpoint, I was like, oh, they're clearly catering to the big money guys, and I was a little, but it's cool to have your perspective because you're going, well, hey, we're paying $8,000 for a booth.
Mm-hmm.
And I do notice that what Jersey has done is kind of separated it.
Yeah. And
you have lunch with the vendors. And so they've created a nice environment where they can steep in that and help the guys make some sales. And then have, like you said, have the classes separate, like still offer a good battery of classes and education and CEUs, but also kind of, and I'm sure that's a tight wire act, right? That's a bit of a balancing act. So, I mean, the only thing I kind of had in my head was Brick mentioned about the new hot thing. Two things I was thinking of is you see a lot of business owners and you have a lot of conversations with them. Is there one sort of, we can cover two sides of it, sort of things, one common mistake that you see tree business owners make and maybe one thing that tends to work out for them, like a negative and a positive? I'm just not sure. And maybe you don't know, but is there something that you go, man, I see this as a common theme where guys mistakenly do this all the time?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm trying to dial in right now.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Take your time.
Do you need to step away for a minute? Because I don't want to jam you up. You got some folks in the store and Ray's trying to conduct business here. Good. And I just want to honor that.
Okay.
And not have you feel like,
Yeah. Thanks, Xavier. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. And if you need to, man, we'll make it happen. Not a big deal. This is not rocket science. But yeah, so I was thinking of that, like if guys, oh man, I tried to go big and add crews and or like if there's a common theme you hear,
Yeah. So I think, man, this is like a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I don't think going big or staying small is it at all. I mean, I think in the industry on the whole, I see a lot of turnover. And some of the guys are blaming culture, right? But some of it's company culture as well.
Right.
I mean, let's be square.
Yeah.
Tree guys are not.
Just say it. It's good.
Tree guys can be jerks.
Yeah.
There you go. And there's a lot of we talk about another, but there's a lot of ego in there, and that's where you forget.
Yeah. So when you were talking earlier about trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be, what about when you're at the end? Like, how are you going to finish, right? Like, you can't run forever as top climber Brick, right?
Correct.
So what are you passing on? And the same thing as a tree company, like, you can't be top dog forever. And I see a lot of guys try to be top dog, and this is the way we do it. This is how I do it. Okay, so like, what is the end result that you're looking for? Start there. You don't have to rake this way. I mean, I've heard guys, he said I was raking the wrong way. I mean, if you wanted to rake the right way, you run the rake, let them do the other job.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that constant, like, focus on yourself and, what are you looking for? Have the end in mind and develop that healthy culture where, you're bringing the right people on. And, people, I've heard some guys refer to their guys as assets. Some guys refer to their guys as liabilities. They're probably both true. Some guys are assets. Some guys are liabilities.
Yep.
Do what you can to make your liabilities an asset. And if you can't, cut them loose,
Wow.
And how many guys just want a warm body?
Yep.
I mean,
I've cycled through that. I mean, if I'm being honest, there's been times when, and you know what? It's a lot of times can lead to a bad hire.
Yeah.
Right. There's one thing you touched on earlier. Like we had a really good conversation prior, and you talked a little bit about roots.
Yeah.
You remember what you said about roots, about like going deep and wide versus this? It doesn't matter the size. Can you?
Yeah.
I think the listeners would benefit.
So what I was saying is the size of the company doesn't really matter. You can have a big company that's very shallow, or a small company that's very deep. Likewise, you can have a big company that's deep, healthy culture. You guys are doing the right things. So it's really about, how healthy is your crew? How healthy is your company? Big company, small company, you can both be healthy. Not everybody's going to have a massive company. Some places you can't do it. Like
Sure.
If you're in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, you're not going to have a company with, 20 crews.
Won't sustain
the infrastructure won't sustain it.
Yeah.
What when you talk in terms of deep roots, what do you think a deep root is? Like what do you
like
what constitutes a deep root?
Yeah,
like
I think it'd be a good way. How do you grow deep root? How does the culture that you want in your company have deep roots?
Mm-hmm. That's a
fair to
great
say?
question. So
you prompted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's got to be something outside of myself for starters, right? Like I don't want everyone to be like me, because half the time I don't even like me, right? So,
okay.
And there's a question there too, but go ahead.
Yeah, no,
so I feel that
I've got to have something outside of myself. So what is the thing that I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And then holding myself to that standard. We were talking earlier, like morality or integrity, right? Like I'm not the source of integrity. So, if I want integrity, what is the source of integrity? What is the standard? And then holding myself to it as well. I can't be duplicitous in this and say, you have to have integrity, but then not show up with it. So you're constantly looking at yourself, putting yourself under the microscope, looking in the mirror and dealing with yourself. If I have an issue with my guy, is my issue with my guy, or is my issue with my guy me? Is it something?
The answer
in me?
is yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And just dealing with the burrs in my own heart and dealing with me and getting me out of the way so that I'm not dealing with this in an emotional way or in a way that's going to blow something up that doesn't have to be. And the same can be true with your wife, right? Like,
Dude,
I got to deal with me before I come to the table and like blow up on her. And sometimes that blow up is the thing that's like, okay, I'm wrong. Like, this is me. I'm being manipulative.
Flawed
I'm being
and broken.
controlling. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Understood.
That was good. That was good, by the way.
Dude, that's deep.
It,
It's the get the log out of your own eye first, right?
Yeah.
It's a biblical principle.
Yeah.
And whether people that listen are believers or not, we're not here to preach, but like those biblical principles are deep, resonant truths.
Yeah.
And if let's just say you're a person that doesn't like hearing it, and that's okay, but you're potentially robbing yourself from some old wisdom that will work. There's a lot of principles woven in there. I always think about sowing and reaping. It says, that which a man sows, he also reaps, right?
And it doesn't matter what you sow, you will reap.
Correct. But my point is, like, you don't have to be a believer for that truth to be true. Right? You run around like a jerk.
Yeah.
You run around like a person who's duplicitous. You run around like a person who doesn't have a principled moral center. You're going to reap the reward of that.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's what it comes down
Chickens
to.
will come home to roost.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. That was good. That was real good. No, if you got some, go for it.
Well, what it was is he's like, I don't like me very much, and I get that, and I understand that internal dialogue, and I feel that, and I think there's the self-development component, and it sounds, and not just from that, we had a little deep talk over there about it. What do we do? Because you're not alone in this. What do we do about that? How do we deal with the burrs? How do we deal with, like, maybe what's a strategy you do? Like something that helps you. Self-reflection's tricky because when we reflect on self, which is where relationships come in sometimes. Like our wife is like the most incredible reflection of our failures and weaknesses, right? And vice versa. We can either fight against it or we can go, okay, what's my role in this? And allow that to penetrate our heart and change us, right? Also, like, this is the one thing I love about this man is we've developed, and obviously the podcast is really deep in this because we have to connect and have conversations. He's not sugar coater, but he's also gonna. I always say, like, I want to have an iron fist, like wrapped in a
sugar coating,
wrapped in a velvet glove, right? Like, bring me truth and just try not to hurt me so much.
Yeah.
So, like, tell me the truth. Yeah. Be honest with me. Am I off base here? I think you're a little bit off base here. Okay, how so? So my question is, strategically, Ray, how do you work on those burrs? Is there a self-development component to your walk of life?
Yeah.
And what is it? Don't be like everything's on the table.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, if I'm examining myself, I have to have something that I'm examining myself against, right?
Okay. Yep.
So for me, that's the Bible. It's the word. It's Jesus. Like,
okay. Love it.
I have to have something. I can't examine myself based on you because I'm better than you in some respects and you're better than me in some respects. More growth, more advanced, right? So if I say, well, Paul was a jerk today, so I'm okay.
Right.
Like that doesn't fly because I'm not changing. I'm conforming to, Paul's image or Paul's standard. And that's not really, what I need.
I get it. Yeah.
And, you have to have some standard that you're measuring yourself against. You can't measure yourself against something,
Yeah. A movable object.
Exactly. So
there you go.
And when I'm measuring myself by that standard, what I see is not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you 100% on it. It's not even. There's no question in this. It's more of you. I'm laughing because the way you said that this man like don't hurt me kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But this is what when people say I'm very stern. When people say I don't like myself or. And I always just try to like switch. It's like, listen, I get the feeling, but the feeling is not that you don't like it. It's the feeling of like I know there's a standard I want to live up to. Yeah. I'm disappointed for the moment.
Yes.
And then fall back and that's
Yeah,
okay.
and I would say it's also a grieving process, right? Like it's a grieving of where I want to be and where I'm at. Good. And shedding those things that are keeping you from getting there. Yeah. Because you don't have to keep it. Like, okay, you know what? I own up the fact that I just ripped into my wife for something that wasn't necessary. Yeah. Or like, she said something to me and I took it personally when I know she wasn't attacking me. She was just saying, hey, you need to do this. But I felt attacked because I don't want to do it. So now I'm being selfish, and really what she's pointing out is my selfishness.
Yeah. And then this, I think you would, both of us, or all three of us would agree that even with the kids, that happens too, right? Yeah, I think that means yes. Yeah, but same for you, like, especially the older one. Not, maybe I would even say the younger ones too, because even because like the 10-year-old not acting. Not to say that they have to do exactly what you do, but it's like it comes with a baggage. It's like, dude, what's the problem? And he doesn't know what the problem is. You got to teach him how to articulate it. But in teaching him how to articulate, you teach yourself.
Yes.
You're like, wait, you know what? I do the same thing when I'm in that position. You know. So I think.
Have you guys ever had this epiphany where there's something that you'll criticize in your kid, and you realize it's something you don't like about you?
Yes.
Like I'll see Mason do something, and I'm like, he's avoiding work. I'm like, I hate when why does he get? And I'm like, I don't like it because I see me in it. Like,
or even worse, you see your dad in you, or
oh, bro,
you know what I mean?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like, and it's I'm
challenge.
So my dad wasn't around, but I know
Thanks,
you
guys.
mean. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
My dad wasn't around in that way to see. But there was always, I'm being straight honest, there was always a curiosity of who my dad was, like the root where I come from, like what does that mean? But when I do see my kids, I'm also visualizing who they are in the future and just be like, I just hope you get all the best version of what I got and not the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And good luck with that, right? Because it comes when I think of each of my children and how proud I am of each of them in their own course. And then how maddening that it can be when I see the negative side show up. But I also know they get it organically.
Yeah.
It's been grafted in. You know?
Man, that first time driving, right? I'm driving down the road and my son's like, that guy's an idiot. I know where that came from.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a perfect example, and it's yeah. So I love that how you framed it. Yeah, you painted the picture really well. That was a good one. I like that
was
a lot.
A deep,
yeah.
And that's, because again, that's a theme on here. And Brick, you do a really good job, I think, of bringing that. It's just that self-development component. Mm-hmm. And we touch on the board. It's like, why is that important? Why is that work important? All I'm doing is tree work, or all I'm doing is running a store. All I'm doing is working at a store. But, it's what's the old saying? It's like, I've seen the problem, and the problem is us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, there's elements of our personalities that are rough and unfinished, and it should be our life's work, right? And I love how you talked about having a standard. This is why I think organizations should have not just a plaque on a wall with words, but a committed set of principles. Brick and I are talking about working up like a code of conduct type of thing. And we're going to reveal some of that, I think, at some point here pretty soon. I call them lighthouse principles. If you have a fixed point, like you're saying, biblical wisdom, the life of Christ, right, or whatever. This is a fixed point. This is a lighthouse, and whatever heaving seas and turmoil and winds and toss that ship around, I fix myself on that set of principles, and I measure myself against that.
Even when you can't see it.
Yeah.
That's the key one. There's gonna be dark, stormy, cloudy, and even when you can't see it, it's still.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the lighthouse would imply, I see it. It's easy.
Right.
But if there's going to be you can't see it.
I think about like a ship. Like the visual will be like a huge one of these tanker ships, and it goes up the wave. You see them on Instagram, these things, and it comes down, right? And there's the lighthouse, and then you go down, and now I can't see it because there's a 100-foot wave in front of the boat.
That's it. Man.
But knowing it's there.
Yep.
Right, and that's. Maybe that's an element of faith, right? Is knowing it's there.
100%.
I've started a practice and that's different and new, and I never thought much of it before. But I've written down some affirmations in my journal, and what I did is I just did some things that I know to be true about myself that are positive, just in human terms. But then because I'm also a believer, I took some promises. Biblically, promises of God, like who God says I am in his word. Yeah. And what I try to do is daily just read them aloud in the morning. And what I want that to do, I haven't been doing it. It's been like since about the middle of December. And I'm trying to build consistency with that so that I can work on changing my internal dialogue.
Absolutely.
And that no matter what I think of myself one particular day, I know what in his word, this is what God says, who God says I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the reality of it is, I believe it's in Proverbs, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So the way you think about yourself is the way you will conduct yourself, the way you will act. And, the reality of it is both things can be true. I'm a worm and not a man, but yet I'm a man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So there is that reality, but like the way you think and the way you act is who you will become. So,
you know what's cool about that? Modern psychology thinks it invented that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no.
You have a whole industry based on sort of like, not name it, claim it, but like think this way and this, and it's actually like, okay, that's 2,000-year-old wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's true.
And the other thing, I'm just to spin this a different way. Yeah. Another way to get out of that is also to do things for other people.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not be self-focused. So like, yeah, you can sit there and navel gaze all day long and you're terrible, but you want to break out of that cycle of thinking. Start doing things for other people and not for the reason of, I want to get out of this, but just because.
And not only not trying to get something in return for that.
That's
either,
right.
Because I think that's what I did this and what did I get?
Yeah.
But then you didn't do the thing.
That's right. Selfless.
Yeah.
Selflessness.
Yeah. No, you're correct on that. I'm sure all three of us agree. Experiences confirm that. that the moment you are helping, serving, or something, you never really can think about yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you truly are, like, you know, like somebody comes into the store and you're truly helping them, at no point you could be like, you know what, I need to do this. I got to go do that. What do I get out of this deal? Kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
you look at politicians, right? They go out and they serve a Thanksgiving dinner, but it's all for the PR.
Oh yeah.
They're in an hour, get a picture. Okay, now I'm out. And it was all about that
photo
press release. But like,
photo op,
what about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think, and there's not always the time, like you said, I'm a man and a worm, but I think if someone would say like, you know, what's your sales success? Because I'm like you, like I've made sales a craft. It's relationship building. It's over the years, and I think what it is, it's bringing honest answers to people, and sometimes it means walking away from money.
Absolutely.
I go out and I'm like, hey, your tree's in the right of way. You know, if you call the county and they look at me and I'm like, listen, if you can get this done, I'm a homeowner.
Yeah.
I run a family. I put a $20,000 roof on my house. Like, did I want to do that? No. And if someone had some cool little workaround where I could get a roof because whatever, you know, so I just want to tell you this. And one of my biggest clients is there's local meeting house, Quaker meeting houses around. There's like one in Mickleton, and 25 years ago, I got the county. I was like, call the county. You're within 40 feet of the right of way. It's really kind of like your tree, but they're responsible for it. I would have charged them probably $6,000 to cut this tree down, and they got it done for free. You know, I've been working for 3 different meeting houses now because of that engagement.
Yeah.
20 some years ago. I never intended that.
Yeah. And you just wanted something for their benefit.
Yeah.
It wasn't about you. It was about them.
And I don't tell that story to like, oh, I'm such a great guy, because I have the same battle you do. I know there's brokenness and shortcomings, you know, in me, but I point it out as an example of if you go into it with pure motives and a pure heart, that's the way to do it. In an ideal world, in an ideal situation.
Yep.
And
you reap what you sow.
In the same way here, you know, we try. I can send everybody out of here with $1,000 worth of gear, but I'm not trying to sell people gear. I'm trying to help them get what they need to do the job, because that's what's going to have them coming back. Yeah, and in some respects, right, it is self-serving, right? Because I want them to come back.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, I don't want them buying gear and then walking out, oh boy, I hate that. And I hate that place.
Or not need it. Like, you sold them something. It's like this idea, but then like, I just needed it for one job. That's not what you said. That's right. You said I'd be able to do like 100 jobs with this thing, and I don't need it. Yeah, I know what you mean. But I just want to add, because I think it's important. My brain goes back to the barter system. If you're in a barter system, it's the same idea. Like, I got something that helps you, you got something that helps me, and you both walk away, and that thing helps you with whatever. It's a win-win. So it's the same if somebody comes in here, they pose a problem that they have, and you're like, hey, I have this, and that for the problem, even though it's just capitalism, monetary involved, but it's still the same root base to that.
I agree.
Like, but if you go and twist it, like, you need this for the problem, but you should buy this thing too, because just in case, knowing that you're just trying to sell something that, again, you can, not you, but other people, you can do that, but that's why I don't think the sales part is the problem. It's when you keep it. That's right. The barter system is what's really beautiful.
And it's those two types of sales. Like, we think of, classic salesman, like the used car salesman, right? There's that, and then there's, and there's a couple good books out there. There's one book, and maybe I mentioned it before. It's called The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. This guy, Anthony Iannarino. It really helped me, because it put some technique to relationships. In other words, saying like, this isn't about. I worked with all these old like furniture salesmen and all, and they were very crafty at controlling language and dialogue using, I have this rope that's 200 feet and it's double braided, blah, blah, blah. And I have this rope here that's this and this. Which one would you like to take today? That's called a contained choice question. Okay. And you go, this one. You're like, good, I'll write it up for you. Versus, do you, what are you doing? You know, do you really need a rope? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, it's, you know, oh, you're not ascending the tree? No, you're just, okay, well, you really don't need that rope. You just need like a 3-strand because all you're doing is tagging this small tree over.
Yeah.
Right. It's need satisfaction. And by the way, capitalism in its purest form is a win-win. It should be a win-win. It shouldn't be dirty. It should be able to elevate both parties. I have something of value that you want and need, and you have something of value that I want and need. And if it's money, that's fine, but that just fuels my operation and allows me to employ people. And
the same thing for the employees, right? Like You're not paying them for their time.
Correct.
I mean, you're not paying them for 8 hours. You're paying them for the skill they bring to the table, the work that they do.
Right.
And if they come to work and they're not working, right, there's no benefit. And ideally, they're getting something out of it as well. They're getting reimbursed for the work that they're doing, but they're also learning skills.
Yep.
Some of which, you know, they can take anywhere. Like,
correct. Try to leave them better than you found them if you can.
Yeah. Very much.
You know, we had an issue. We had a bunch of young people come through, and I was like, look, if you just learn some of this fundamental stuff, how to run a saw, how to rope, how to stack brush, run a chipper. Anywhere there are trees growing in the world, there are people working on them. You can go anywhere in the world with a set of hands and this little bit of skill and work.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not what you want to do for your career. That's okay. But in a pinch, if you want to travel and you want to go somewhere and hunker down and work, you can be an asset to somebody.
Yep.
Again, I just can't hold myself, but going deeper is the work ethic, though.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
The work ethic, like, so yes, you're right, but then, like, the work ethic is the thing that you can bring all over the world to anything.
I agree.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I don't disagree with
It
that.
just so happens to be a treater, like, hey, I can do that too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, because I'm sure all of us been in the same boat. We work with people that they're doing the work, but they're just doing it to pay the bill. And then there's people that are doing the work at a level of like a high work ethic level, and they just happen to pay the bills.
I love what you're saying. I have to interrupt.
Yeah, please,
I'll lose the thought.
That's what I'm trying to do.
It's like, am I doing the minimal acceptable effort, or am I excelling?
Yeah,
that's it.
And it's like, listen, man, if mediocrity is your game, if you're okay with just being average,
you can do anything.
then just you're going to operate at that level, minimum acceptable effort. And you see places of employment where it's like that. There's a culture that develops where, like, I'm going to pick on you, right? Because you're a municipal guy, right? Like, there's a classic. Well, and you know this, and we can have this conversation, and we have, right? Where you know, we drive by and there's like the West Deptford Township I grew up in, you know, and they're filling potholes, and there's like usually one guy running the shovel, and he's this and that, and he's grading whatever, and then there's other guy talking, smoking a cigarette, you know, and it's like, are you doing minimal acceptable effort? Or like we had a couple young guys leave. Verizon was doing all these pole changeovers through our region, and they needed climbers, and they were paying them good money, stupid money. So two of my climber guys left. This is back in like 2016, 2017. And they went there with our work ethic. They went there with their hair on fire. And they're like supposed to do so many poles a day. Well, these young bucks, once they got trained and up to speed, they were destroying all of the rank and file guys. Like, let's just say, I don't know what the numbers were. The average guys did 4 poles a day. These guys were doing like 10. And they got a talking to.
For doing too much.
They're doing too much. Like, listen, you can't. And they're like, we're going to do, like, this is the ethic we came from. This is where and he's like, it's unsustainable. No one can do this every day, all day for whatever. Slow it down, young man, kind of thing.
I used to work for a company, and after I left, I knew someone that went to work there, and he was given a 3-day tree job. He did it in 1 day, and they told him, don't you ever do that again. If you ever do that again, you're out of here.
Wow.
You made us look bad.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the last part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, instead, he just made you a ton of money because he found a better way to do it.
Yep.
He didn't climb and rig the tree. He felled it because he knew how he could do it. And the guy's an amazing feller. He's not an amazing climber, but he can put a tree where you want to put a tree.
Nice.
And
the gift.
Yeah.
it is gift. Yeah.
And he just made you 2 days worth of money.
Yeah, it's
you know?
incredible.
Yeah. And it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a
And
problem.
that shouldn't be a problem. That should be rewarded.
Right.
How do you feel about this? I've heard this in the past, and it's got to do with a little bit of how we run our operation, but where I've heard it said where it's like you're working, and like the foreman says something to the effect of like, if we work so fast and we get this job done early, we're going to be punished with another job. Because what I'm saying is companies, and I'll just be transparent. Like the way we set our days up is I don't typically jam so much in because I've had scheduling issues over the years where you have this giant day, and if one thing goes wrong, now you're making all these phone calls.
Yeah.
So we put this much in with the idea that now some days there's an anchor job. It's like, get this done, we're done. Mm-hmm. But other days it's like, hey, get this done. If we're done by 1, 2, 2:30, call in. We got a little something. We can kind of put a cherry on top. And as an owner, know this, if I can do that twice a week over the course of a month, at the end of my month, it's glorious.
Yeah.
But in my mind, everybody benefits. I'm not necessarily lining my pockets with it.
Yeah.
It's what allows us to do company stuff.
And that job may need to go that way because you don't have enough money on it to run out, do a 3-hour job, and run back and be done for the day. So that's getting done in that way, one way or another.
Yeah. What do you think of that mentality?
Drives me crazy.
Do you think it's an issue with the worker mentality, or do you think the boss should stop punishing them with other jobs? I'm just curious. Because look, I'm an old hammerhead, and I admit it. And I'm when I started, I was the one doing all the climbing, so it was hammer. Like that's what I did 6 days a week. That's how I made hay, as it were.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings on it. Is it 2:00 or is it 11? Right. You know what I mean?
I got you.
And
situational kind of.
What's the job and what day is it? I mean, if it's Friday at 3,
100% behind
right?
you. Yes.
But that mentality is a problem of we're going to get punished with another job. If showing up to work is punishment, we have an issue, right?
Okay.
And to me, there's so many ways around it, but I don't know, the legalities and in and outs of, day rate and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of tree guys there are a lot of companies, not just tree guys, that do shady things as far as pay goes.
Yep.
I mean, if you're paying your guys well, but then again, that's a whole different conversation. What's getting paid well? It's a whole lot different than it was 10 years ago.
Sure it is.
I mean, my goodness, if somebody offered me what I started out making,
right? Can you imagine?
I mean? Like,
what?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember working as a climbing foreman, and I was selling some too, running a team, and I was the guy that came in, fueled everything for 2 crews. Like I got both crews ready to go.
Oh wow!
And I was making $12 an hour.
That's what I mean. Like,
wow, yeah, it is wild, yeah.
And I was shitting in high cotton.
I love it. I like that.
But now I know guys that are getting paid $30 an hour to ride a mower full time,
Right.
Dude, it's wild.
which is insane because before COVID, 15 max, you're topping out. So, I think there are certain people that it doesn't matter what you give them, it will never be enough.
And that's the I'm being punished. I think that's where that comes from. I'm being punished because even if you give them whatever they have, because what do you want? I want 40 an hour, or whatever. Then it won't be enough 2 weeks later.
That's right.
So the fact, and you don't mind me, so the idea is that I will be punished tells me that you're already in a position that you don't want to honor the agreement that you had with somebody else. But that also works for the owner's side as well. And not pointing, but the idea is there's an agreement, and then to your point, the fluctuation of that agreement changes because of the nature of the work. Meaning computers, I can't say because I don't know, but computers, 16 emails per day. It's pretty it's pretty straightforward. You 16, not 13, not 21, 16. That's the agreement. Cool, no problem. Well, this one, because it's 2 hours here, 1 hour here, 4 over here, 6 over here, it's like different. But there's that agreement. But the only way to get to a true agreement goes back to a point about having a standard. the Bible. Like, if you don't have a standard, you're never going to be able to come to a true agreement with another person.
Great.
On both ends. Does that make sense?
But at the same time, also, you know, when the guys know that you have their, thanks, Xavier.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
The guys know if you have their best interest in mind, or your own, and if they know that you have their back, you know, I think that's not going to become, oh, we can only do 4 polls today, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
And I think it's really, and I love your phrase, the human shit. If you're just willing to have those conversations,
just so you know, human shit. That's actually Desmond and I that came up with it, and the concept behind it is, even though like with the 3 of us are on the same level, connecting everything else, I want to make sure that your brain didn't misunderstand or possibly read my body. And I'm like, just human shit. By no means am I saying something this is what I meant. I love and support you. That's the root of what that is. Just so you know.
Yeah, it's getting clarity, and it's like we have to get the dialed inness like out of the way, like make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned communication wise.
Yep, exactly.
But I think it's important having those conversations. Like I got one guy at home, he's got 4 kids, and like the other day we got back, Mason got sick on I was just like, go home. So he and I went and buttoned up another project. We got back, both trucks were full because Mason just ran. I said, go home and crawl in bed. Mason's my kid for those listening. Anyway, we get back and we had 2 full trucks, and my guy was like, do you need me to dump? And I was like, do you have time? Because I know some days he's got to, and he's like, I'm good. I was like, if you got time and you're good, it would be a big help if you would dump.
Yeah.
And so we got that human crap out of the way. He was good. I'm good. So I definitely want to take the temperature of my team.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I've developed a flow. Like Monday, I try to come in, let the guys adjust to coming out of the weekend. To me, that's a safety issue as much as it is anything else.
Yeah.
And then I don't usually tag the big hammer job on Monday. I sort of ramp the week. My week looks like this. And then on the backside of a Friday. Now, Friday, I might do a big project, but it's going to be cherry picked. It's going to be something I know we can go in with our 5 guys and like destroy it and still be home at a decent hour. But it's being willing to have those conversations. And I kind of like how it's a little bit of the responsibility of both parties to have those conversations. But when it's time to get it, you get it.
Yeah.
And you go, hey guys, do you understand like the day that we tag that extra, you're not being punished. What we're doing is we're making up for the day that it was 4 degrees out and nothing wanted to start and we didn't go out.
Yeah.
And so we needed that extra, you know.
And I think some of it too, I mean, like some of the excavating companies around here, they pay their guys overtime at 8 and 40. Right?
Okay.
So you get overtime at 8 hours, you get overtime at 40.
Okay.
So what that means is if there's a rain day, you still have some overtime.
Yep.
And if there's so you're working 8 hours, but you know, you work an extra hour, now you have overtime. So if there's some of that where, okay, you know what, it's Wednesday, but
and that's actually not a bad way to make it up for them. Because a lot of times you can, as an owner, go, all right, well, we missed Tuesday, so we're going to do 3 12s to make it up.
Yeah, or now everybody's got to come in on Saturday.
Yeah, and they're like,
well,
what?
I mean, and I get that, and some guys are going to, okay, I need to make up the time, I need to make the money, but, I mean, Saturday's still...
It's Saturday.
Yeah. It's still Saturday.
I try to stay off my guys Saturdays, and I know a lot of... I know I'm not as, quote, big as I could be if I really just went nuts and hammered. But I try to give them a time to go home and heal and come back at it. That's just my way.
Oh, I mean,
but I've adopted that over time. It wasn't always the way.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm just thinking, you know, telling you more about me as we talk. But I have a municipal background. I'm still in a municipality, but I did my own tree stuff too. So whatever, but. And this is, again, to your point, this is not a knock on municipal workers, but generally the mindset falls into, I get paid the same regardless of the output. So most people looked at it as like, ooh, wait, so if I can do close to nothing and get a paycheck, as opposed to the guy who's trying to do live up to the standard, he still gets paid the same. Why would I do the thing that the guy's doing when I can do close to nothing and still get a paycheck?
Minimal acceptable effort.
Whatever's beneath that is beneath that, because I don't even think that's good enough to explain it.
No, I ran the grounds of a retirement community. I mean, that's about the same as municipal. I mean, once you're in there, good luck getting fired. I mean, you're
okay. So you get it. You've been exposed to it, you know, and that's why I'm like really big on like, again, let's just say there's 10 people and one of them that really wants to learn. It's like I'm just here because I'm just creating stability. You know, I'm gonna pay my bills or whatever, but I want to be something better, but I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
You still have the potential to do that, and the thing is, you have to understand how to become a better person, but understand that when you do run into an owner, like an owner, and then, but the owner has to do the same. And that's where that's why I said, I don't know if fluctuating is the right word, but it's never like, there's always a contract, $20 an hour, and then we'll see what happens in a year. And I get that, but the idea is there should be always like a fluctuating, like
there's an ebb and a flow really to life itself.
Yes, exactly.
And I feel like business is that way. And it's weird because I used to really but like struggle with winter. Like I was just like, winter. To be honest now, I almost look at it as like things slow a little bit. I know I'm not going to make as much, but you know what? I try to heal my mind, heal my body, heal my spirit, work on some equipment, enjoy the slower pace, and it pens up energy in me. So Cynthia used to call it like the cocooning phase. So you're in a cocoon in the winter, the cold, the snow, and I like working in it. I do like working when there's snow on the ground and everything and all, but I also know I'm not going to do 50-hour weeks, but it's okay. And my estimate schedule's way slower. I kind of like it. And then when it's time to get it, and that first lawn's being cut in the spring and the birds are chirping and it's like, ooh, it's the quickening.
Buds are popping.
Like just like bada bing. It's like, let's go. And then you're going to run hard from March through the end of November. Right? Christmas time, whatever. And then you got that little period where you're maintaining so I've learned to embrace it and try to ride it. But I think that same ebb and flow, day to day, extra job, no extra job. But it's about taking your pulse, taking your temperature. How we feeling? We good? You guys want to hammer this?
And I mean, let's be honest, that you don't have to want to do everything you have to do, right?
Correct.
There you go.
There's some
that's rich.
Some of it's just being a man and doing what you have to do.
Man up.
And the same thing is there with your guys too. Like, you know what? I know you don't want to do it, and I'm sorry. We just have to do it. I mean, do you want to do storm drains every rain day? No. Do you have to do it? Yeah. Because if you don't do it, somebody's going to be flooded out. Like, I don't want to empty the trash. Do I have to do it? Yeah.
Yep.
You do.
Yep. I agree. I agree. The suffering brings character. Important.
Yeah.
Can't do everything comfortable. If we did everything comfortable, everything like we wanted to do, we'd be a complete disaster.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Nothing would work.
And you wouldn't do anything.
No.
Like, really.
Dude, I'd sit in front of a fire all day watching Netflix or something.
But hold up. But you need wood.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Where's the wood coming from?
Exactly.
It's magic. I don't know.
It is. Yeah. No doubt.
No, it's good.
So, anyway. What are we thinking?
I'm letting the bubble.
No, I understand. I just
12 o'clock.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, I don't know if we're like,
see if it flies, right?
If we're feeling like, we can land the plane. Is there anything unspoken? Is there anything we need to touch on?
No, I mean,
I always like to at the end go through my go through my list just to make sure. And usually what we do is we cover everything. We went over Ray's background, talked about this, his biggest challenge. Working in trees, how he got into that, telling his story.
Yeah.
About his family and how big it is.
How big it
What's your vehicle, dude? What do you guys drive around in when you all got to go somewhere?
We have a 12 passenger van.
That's great, dude. I love it. Yeah. That's awesome. What make is it? Like, what is it?
It's a 350.
Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah.
And your one son who comes in here, what is his name?
Judah.
And he's how old?
He just turned 16.
Okay, and he's a big help. He comes in
He's
and works.
phenomenal.
Oh, yeah?
He's so great.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's been helping me at this pretty much since he's 6 or 7.
I'm
years
sure,
old.
dude. Are there any others that jump in with him that have that same kind of like vigor for it, or?
Justice enjoys it, but he's the athletic one. He doesn't quite have that work grind yet.
Yep.
He's gonna get it though.
And how old's he?
He's 11.
Okay, so he's a little younger.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got time.
He's
to-
But honestly, some of my
Perfect.
daughters will probably be really good at some of the computer stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Please,
that.
I hope it works.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's crazy because for years I thought, I didn't think much about whatever, and it's cool. We're in Amish country and like the family farms and everything, and the way they like come together for their communities and things, and it never dawned on me. But I've had tree jobs where I'm the climber, and I got my 3 kids as ground people.
Yeah.
And it's just like bang, bang, boom. And I'm like, I should have had 10. like honestly, like, I mean, it's kind of cool, like in a way, but there's so much joy. Do you find that like when they're in working, like there's a second level of joy for you to watch them?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I always say it's a trip. Like, people talk about drugs and like you just alter your universe, but if you really think about it, it's a trip to have a mini you be there with you. Like, wait, what? Like, what is this? Like it's just really weird. Like Judah coming in.
Yeah.
Like you have to really sit and think about it. But when you sit and think about it, like you came from me and you're helping me do this thing here. This is a trip, dude. This is weird.
It is. And what's cool is like on my photo thing, how it gives you like memories.
Yeah.
I've been getting ones of Mason from back. There's one memory that's etched in my mind. Like I let this kid wrench on stuff.
Yeah.
So I was changing blades in my 1800 chipper one day, and the torque setting's 270 on the bolts. It's a lot of torque. I got the torque wrench, and I would get on the fender, and he's like, can I try? And I'm like, sure. And he's trying to pull, and he doesn't have enough weight. Like he's pulling, and he's pulling himself toward the. Yeah. And I talked him through. I'm like, hey, brace your foot on there. Do this. And like once you know the level of that you need to. Well, now the kid's like an incredible wrench, but like here he was young Mason, still had his young man voice and all. And the fact I'm on jobs with him and he's like, and I'm just, some days I have to pause. I'll be up in the bucket or climbing, working, and he's running ropes or he's in an adjacent tree working.
It's wild.
And it is a trip.
Yeah, it's a trip. Yeah.
But what a blessing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an incredible blessing.
Yeah. Good.
Cool.
Is there anything you would like to throw in there?
No, it's awesome.
No, it's good. I love it. No, thank you. I was going to say, I'll leave right, but I was going to say definitely thank you for doing this because I know you through 2 people that I'm close with.
Yeah.
Paul and Desmond. So it's really cool to be able to make a deeper connection with you. But I'll do a shout out for you, for everybody that's listening. Gap Arbor Supply. Obviously, you heard the man for 2+ hours. You know that he's a dude that's always trying to live to the highest standard. And if anything, you buy equipment, please buy from Gap Arbor Supply because you'll be supporting him at the same time.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better, and I'm glad you did that because that's kind of where I was going. But yeah, I mean, also even on the nuts and bolts of it side, like I order stuff, man, and I swear when it's by a certain time of day, it shows up at my door pretty dang quick. Also having conversations about gear is a great place to come in. On the weekends, some days you'll have some of the ambassadors, the climbers are in here talking gear and equipment. And it's just, the vibe is, I mean, the fact he's got a living room set up here, there's typically a pot of coffee going, there's water, like
on a couch.
On a couch, nice walnut table here. So, it's about the gear, but you can come in here and if you spend a few minutes in here, you'll understand there's a vibe and an atmosphere. And I think that in my experience typically comes from leadership. So yeah, I'm grateful to be developing a relationship with you over time. Like it's kind of cool. And when you have sit downs like this, you get to get those roots a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for the opportunity to come up here. It's a little different vibe, which is cool for us. We typically do it in my office or whatever. So to travel up and get the show on the road, as it were, is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
I knew there might be challenges coming in, but I like that. I liked interacting with.
It makes
folks.
it real. It's real. That's what it's like.
Exactly.
It's real. Like it's nice to have the clean, packed up version, but this is the way it worked out. It's real. It's awesome.
I love it too.
So it's good.
Anyway, cool. So yeah, Gap, check them out. They got a great website, shop online, order stuff, have it dropped right to your house. And
or preferably come in. You've got to check the place out.
well, that's my thing. If you're within driving distance, and even if you make it like a thing with a couple of your guys, what time are you open till typically on a Saturday?
1.
Okay, so you're here till 1. So if you're, even a couple hours away, man, get up early and come have breakfast at one of these like smorgasbords around here. And you recommended a mom and pop place one time I came at the old store, and Brett and I went in there and hammered a breakfast.
Wasn't it a great place?
Bro, it was incredible.
It's good,
But
a little Amish-owned diner.
Oh, it's awesome.
So that's the kind of stuff you'll get coming in with Ray. So, all right, man.
Cool.
That's all we got.
That's it.
Thanks for tuning into the Aging Arborist and giving us a listen. We're really grateful to have your support. And thanks again to Ray. Have a good one, y'all.
All right. Peace out.
Out.